I'd like to say I am joined by Suzy Shinn. Hi Suzy, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Not at all, I'm grand. Just to kick off then, for those out there who maybe aren't aware of who you are and what you do, could you just maybe introduce yourself a little bit and tell us just who you are and what you do, really?
Of course. Well, my name's Suzy Shinn. I am a music producer and a songwriter and engineer, and I work a lot with bands and kind of pop rock or rock music, and that's pretty much it.
Awesome, so you've been in the industry for a while now. Could you just tell us a little bit about how you first got interested in making music for a living?
For sure. I must have been like 5 years old, and I would start writing my own songs. And I loved singing, and my mom made me start playing the guitar, even though I hated it. And I just remember like even being like a little kid, being like, "Well, this is what I'll do when I grow up." So I graduated high school a year early because I'm from Wichita, Kansas, which is like the middle of the country, nowhere. And I went to school at a music university in Boston to go do what I thought I should do after high school. And then eventually got a recording studio internship in LA and dropped out of college. And it's kind of, that's what happened. And I stayed in LA. And that was like 10 years ago almost, 8 years ago maybe.
Awesome. So, were you always intending to go behind the scenes into more engineering and producing, or were you originally going down a more artist route, and then you transitioned into behind the scenes stuff?
When I was a kid, yeah, I was more artist and like I didn't grow up from a musical family or anything, so I thought that was the only route that you could do. I thought you were a singer, you were a pop star, and that's it. And then I went to like, it was very embarrassing, but like band camp when I was 14. I know. And I learned you could do so much more, and the whole world of producing and writing, I was like, oh my God, you can do this. Um, and that really is what opened the door for me. And I started like, reading CD booklets or vinyl booklets or whatever, being like, oh my gosh, it's not just the band doing all this. There's so much more. Because I was naive. I had no idea for a very long time.
Awesome. So, at what point do you feel like you got your first big break in terms of production and engineering? When did you first feel like, my God, this is it. I've made it here.
Oh my God. I feel like I have not made it yet.
I mean, that's
Um,
not true, but
it's always, it's always setting goals. Uh, I remember the first time it was like, yes, this is so cool. Two. One was like pre-working and one was while I was working. During college, I would go to my, like this one professor's office hours, oh my God, every week. And when eventually, like I was like, can I play you a song I wrote? And it was a really embarrassing pop love song. And he said, you are the only other person who sat down in front of me and that I will say this to, and that you can write a song. And he's like, the only other person who I told that to is John Mayer. And I was like, oh my God,
wow.
I'm 18 years old. I'm like, that's so cool. And that was before that really like more than I realized at the time, like gave me so much motivation for years to come. And then when I signed my publishing deal, like the day I signed my publishing deal, to what was Mighty Seven's Songs Publishing, that's when I was like, I can do this. I have someone who believes in me. I got this.
That's so cool. That's amazing. Obviously, since then, you've gone on to work with lots of huge names like Panic at the Disco, Sia, Katy Perry. Have there been any of those experiences that you particularly love that really stand out to you in any way?
Oh my God, all of them. All of them are so wonderful. Like every single human or band, that I work with, like I'm so proud of them. I think the world of them, and there's always something with like each particular artist that I can like look back on and laugh. So yeah, when it comes to it, it just comes to like I just think of like I'm working together in the studio with them, and it's just like how real and how like truly creative human beings are.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit then about your production process, I guess, the ways in which you would record an album. Shall we use, like, you're recording Van Weezer at the moment. Let's maybe use that as an example of how that works. So let's talk a little bit about that album, how you're recording Weezer, how that came about in general.
For sure. So I've been working with Weezer. You know, I engineered the White Album for Jake Sinclair, and Jake Sinclair is this like insane producer
That's a
and
great
like one
album.
of my best friends. And then ever after that, I was like, they would call me in, Rivers would, because it's like, oh, you can record the vocals on this, we can do this, and it's just like, and then like the Teal album, I vocal produced and vocal engineered the whole thing.
Okay.
And then after that, you know, we share the same management, and they were kind of like, why don't we use Suzy to do the next album? Like, it seems like that's what would be natural if like that, you know, we like working with her. And I was super excited.
Of course.
And then like that started like a process of like listening through a lot of songs, like Rivers writing a lot. We were writing the songs, like getting the arrangements, getting the lyrics, everything down so that we could then go in the studio, put scratch guitar, scratch drums, scratch vocals down, similar to how he would do on previous albums, like in the 90s.
Uh-huh.
And then Pat would come in and we'd do drums. And then we'd do like real guitar, or maybe like Pat and Rivers would play at the same time. And then have Scott come in to do bass, you know, Brian, lead guitar, and then like vocals, like, you know, slowly like having a foundation and building up from there.
Awesome. So it's like a very organic, almost old school process, I guess.
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
You know, yeah. And it's not to tape or anything, which I sometimes I wish it was. But then also like I'm like in my house right now waiting for them to come in the mail. I ordered like 2 4-tracks and I want to run a bunch of that through there and then just like tweak forever and try to make them the best songs ever.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. I can't wait to hear that. Let's talk a little bit now. The world of music production appears to be incredibly male-dominated. Like, when you think of the biggest producers, they're largely men. And that's obviously a pretty big problem. What's your experience been like as a woman in that industry?
Yeah, it's very male-dominated, but like the guys that I work with a lot of male producers, and I respect them so much. And also like it's the guys who have taken me under their wing and like brought me up with them, or like helped me get further along in my career. Like they've supported me over the years. With that being said though, like I wish there were more girls. I know some really dope, awesome girls who are killer producers, and there's, you know, I can count them on one hand, but yeah, I think they're out there, and I think that everyone is just like honing their craft, and like they're going to be discovered, and they're going to like shine their light. Like their music is going to come out and like speak for itself. And I hope that like young girls can see that there are more paths. If they want to be a producer, if they want to be an engineer, like that road is there, that door is open, and we're all waiting for them and like welcoming them too.
That's awesome. So just lastly, to wrap up with then, do you have any advice for any young girls and women who want to get involved in the world you're in right now?
Of course. The world I'm in, my suggestion, like if I would, you know, tell a high school or middle school girl, I'd be like, learn every instrument, like get on the piano, get on the guitar, get on the drums. Like those are going to be your foundation for being a great producer. And then just start making music and be a good person. And like, I'm always like, I feel like I'm very reachable via social media. Like if anyone like wants me to listen to stuff, like I'm always down. I always want to help out or give advice.
That's awesome. That's great advice. And I feel like, Suzy, you're a really good inspiration for people wanting to get involved in the industry. I think it's so cool how much you've achieved in such a short space of time. Not to send that to butt you up or anything. I do genuinely think it's pretty cool.
Thanks so much.
No, not at all. Thank you so much for talking to us. It's been really good talking to you. I'll let you go now, but thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Charlie.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.